This presentation is about the origins of polarity therapy. And in order to talk about polarity therapy origins, we must talk about Randolph Stone, born 1890 in Austria, what is now Austria, and immigrated to the U.S. pre-teen, became a medical doctor, and had a long career in Chicago. And throughout his life, he was fascinated by the Asian wisdom traditions. And he studied all the different lineages and methods in great depth. And he concluded that the wisdom traditions of Asia held great promise and could be adapted into Western medicine. And so he called his synthesis of what he had learned polarity therapy. The word polarity referring to the energetic relationship between a plus and a minus in an electromagnetic field, in the atom, in the galaxies, in everything in between, that relationship of plus and minus. And his main theory was that if the flow, the circuit of plus and minus is impeded or blocked, then there will be health problems, and a therapy, an effective therapy, will be to restore that current flow. So the question is, where did he get his ideas? He was studied to be a Lutheran minister before he went to medical school, and he was fascinated always by yoga, by Oriental medicine, by the great philosophies, the ancient teachings, and so this is a quick summary or slideshow of known influences. That is, people that he is actually known to have participated with or talked about or referenced in his writings. This is a quick review so we know, where did he get his material? A great question. First of all, we'd like to talk about the Western teachers and organizations that he was involved in and that he drew from. And we begin with the Theosophical Society. He was very involved. This was the first organization attempting to bring yoga and mystic philosophies to an American audience. And he studied those extensively. He was a librarian for the Theosophical Society for about 30 years. Also, he was very interested in the work of Rudolf Steiner, about 30 years older than him, and Manly P. Hall. These are very prolific authors teaching India spirituality, Buddhist philosophy, Himalayan wisdom to American audiences. He was also very involved with Rosicrucian. He was involved with that organization and also the Masonic Order. And the Masonic Order is of particular interest. There's a lot to talk about there. He included in his published work a lengthy essay on the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, the so-called Hermetic philosophy. And clearly he was very entranced and appreciative of that work. So we would have a special moment to just recognize so-called Hermetic philosophy, which was a foundational cosmology within the Masonic Order, and drew heavily on the book The Kybalion, published in 1908 by anonymous authors, which began with the first principle of polarity, as above, so below, as below, so above. And he quotes that repeatedly in his books, and obviously it was very important to him. Hermes was a mythic or perhaps historical figure, it's not known, of about 1000 BC, probably in Egypt, maybe in Greece as well, and supposedly carved his philosophy into a stone tablet, which was mentioned by several historians of that era. Last time it was seen was in the court of Alexander the Great. But it includes these basic 6 principles, the foundation, and you could say that polarity therapy is the application of these principles into modern healthcare. So then similarly, a very significant influence was the Indian yogis and teachers, and the ones that are mentioned specifically include Vivekananda, who was notable for he was the first one. He came to the Chicago World's Fair and presented yogic teachings. He was the very first one. He's mentioned. Rama Tirtha is also mentioned as a practitioner, that Dr. Stone at one point said, if a yogi ever comes to Chicago, I'll be in the front row. And then Yogananda is mentioned, and also Krishnamurti. And each of these are substantial teachers of a philosophy, of a worldview. They didn't make it up. In all cases, they were trying to transmit something that they had learned, something that was brought to them that they are conveying to the future. And then Bhattacharya was the author of an excellent book, Tridosha is the title of it, and that book actually survived. I have that book with Dr. Stone's detailed notes all throughout. It's fascinating to see, his interpretation of the 3 principles. 3 principles are best known as yang, yin, and neutral, also known as Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva in these Asian traditions. And then lastly, we see Maharaj Sawan Singh, author of the book Spiritual Gems, and some of Dr. Stone's references, especially the more mystical ones about the journey of the soul, seem to have a link. And Dr. Stone, when he retired in 1974, he moved to India and lived in the colony that Sawan Singh had established in Beas, India. And then lastly, we would be interested in Dr. Stone's medicine science influences, and some very interesting and very effective practitioners of a totally different era. Dr. Varma in Paris had a big influence, and 3 of Dr. Varma's charts are reprinted in Volume 1, Book 2. And then Edwin Babbitt was a clairvoyant medical doctor in the frontier days, post-Civil War in America, and he described currents. He could see with his clairvoyant vision currents in the body and outside of the body, and he noticed that people who were sick had certain distortions in their aura, so to speak. And he wrote an excellent book, Principles of Light and Color, which has been brought back into print. Is very interesting to read. We see here a picture of Dr. Babbitt and a drawing from his book. And then also very significant were A.T. Still, the founder of osteopathy, and the D.D. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic. And they were a full generation older than Dr. Stone, bringing the manual medicine of Western Europe, the bone setters and similar traditions of the Middle Ages, bringing that into a modern application. Also, peer collaborators that are mentioned with great appreciation are Major DeJarnette. Major was actually his name, not his rank. And Robert Fulford, D.O., famous for teaching that babies who receive sessions, newborn babies should receive sessions and thereby get relief from things like colic and ear infection. And that's what I can find and illustrate for you as far as the origins of polarity therapy. This is where it came from. Randolph Stone was an innovative synthesis maker of these traditions, and that's what we are bringing to you when we bring polarity therapy. It's a very effective method including touch, counseling, diet, and exercise.